Sugar, flour, vegetable oils, salt are the four horsemen of the food industry. They're not used to deliver nutrition. They're a weapon of the food industry. They create products that taste good, products that sell well. Four ingredients that can make any food edible in any quantity, or even create an entirely new product that simply doesn't exist in nature. I think we've all had this same experience of regretting something that we've eaten, whether it's cakes, sweets, chocolate, pizza, fries, whatever your poison is. I do like to indulge sometimes, so. But we don't regret it because we didn't enjoy them, but because we know we can do better. Secretly, maybe we don't want to admit that it's an issue. We're human. It's very difficult for us to outperform our environment. These treats, snacks, goods, and ingredients are everywhere. You can't avoid them. And we almost always feel worse afterwards. In fact, some people have been on the food industry's treadmill, I guess you could say, for so long that they can't even recognize what it feels like to feel good anymore. So what actually makes these products so addictive? For that, we need to look into hyper-palatability. A hyper-palatable product is a food that tickles all our senses, engineered using sugars, fats, and salt in ratios and combinations that exceed anything we could ever find in nature. In fact, there aren't many foods in nature that have fats and carbohydrates together in such a narrow ratio, like 1-to-1, 50% sugar, 50% fat. Avocados and milk have fats and sugars together, but it's not even close to a 1-to-1 ratio. The only food in nature that even comes close is honey, which to be fair is 99% sugar, and that's typically protected by bees, so good luck with that. Have you ever noticed when eating how one isn't enough? One slice, one chunk, one piece, you just keep on eating. What's happening is your threshold for satisfaction from the food, the pleasure that you receive from the food, is so high that only these foods can reach that threshold. You need more of the same to feel the same pleasant effect. Plain old fresh produce, meat, vegetables, and fruits just doesn't even come close. They can't compete. Question: have you ever overdosed on real food? When I say overdosed, I mean eaten so much that you couldn't stop eating. Things like beef, chicken, pork, vegetables, fruits, homemade stuff. Probably not, right? But a bar of chocolate, I can just keep going. I can eat half of it and say, well, that's not enough. I'll finish the other half. And I do, typically, which is why I avoid it completely. So why does it feel good to keep eating these things? The first issue is that there's a mismatch between our new environment, which is quite abundant, and our brain circuitry, which still thinks, rightfully so, that it's operating in the old environment of scarcity, kind of like caveman times. When you did find food, that was a rare treat, particularly if you were a bad hunter. The second issue is that we can't taste minerals or vitamins. I can't taste vitamin B12, for example, or zinc, magnesium, or copper when I'm eating the food, that is. But I can taste sweetness, fattiness, and saltiness. There's a reason for that. For most of human history, those flavors were reliable signals of nutrition and hence survival. Our tongue is programmed to respond positively to these tastes. In the old environment, simple meals made up of meat, vegetables, and fruits, your basic food groups, would strongly activate those reward pathways in the brain. For a good reason, right? Survival. It's your body telling you to do more of it. It wasn't that long ago that we used to get excited for this. Probably before sugar came out, refined sugar. But now, whenever you sit down and you eat a meal, a basic meal that's quite nutritious, there's barely a whisper from the brain. There's nothing. It's poof. The problem starts when these ingredients are isolated from their whole foods and recombined, often with other additives, and consumed repeatedly over long periods of time. They no longer behave the same as whole foods, especially in how they interact with satiety, that's your signal of fullness, your appetite, how hungry you feel, and your reward system. That's when they begin to hijack the reward system. That's the secret of the food industry. Hijack the primitive reward system. As I say, we no longer live in scarcity. We live in abundance. The food industry simply makes a lot of money from our taste receptors. It's really that simple. Just look at many of our modern foods. They follow the same pattern. Think about these foods. Chips or fries, if you're American, crisps, biscuits, crackers, pastries, cakes, breakfast cereals, cookies, most granola bars, burger buns, candy-coated snacks, instant noodles, pizza, and bread. Most of these rely on the same 4 ingredients: sugar, oil, flour, which modern flour is practically sugar anyway, and salt. Not all of these ingredients are present in these food items, but sometimes there's even added sugars, secret or not, in places where you wouldn't expect to find them, such as chips or fries again. The same way you might add salt to a homemade dish to increase its salience, and the salience is its importance compared to unsalted chips, for example. We do this at home with things like brownies by adding salt, or any other dish really. Adding a little bit of sugar at home isn't a big deal because we can measure, and also we're more likely to cut down on the junk: pasta, refined rice, bread, cereal, etc. And we're more likely to eat meat, vegetables and fruits, sticking to the basic food groups. Currently, we're in a position where reward is winning the war over real, genuine, pressing hunger. Hunger that you actually feel, and not just, I wake up and it's my usual routine. These ingredients are tools that the food industry uses to make you feel like you're getting more nutrition than you actually are. Because again, strong taste in nature is associated with density of vitamins, micronutrients, or macronutrients. When it comes to marketing, they market these products as comforting, relief, or indulgence. Yet over time, they reduce our ability to feel satisfaction from real, ordinary food. We become numb to it. And sometimes even life, if your addiction is bad enough, biochemically speaking. They place a chronic load on the organs, and over time, that spills into the mind. They don't just change our eating habits, they change the way we feel. The food industry is both the cause and the proposed solution to the very problem they created with their food. We've been calibrated to their system. You might even say hijacked.